roll call.
Heather Campbell. Here. Mal Johnson, excused. Cheryl Kazluga, absent. Randall Martin.
Present.
Dominic Moranti.
Here.
Charles Millar.
Here.
Margaret Morris.
Here.
You have a quorum.
So has everyone got a chance to read the minutes? Can I get a motion to accept the minutes? Motion. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Chair, can I just interrupt you for 1 moment?
So,
Can I ask you, which one are we on? The finance or the, you're gonna open with the full, right? I just wanted clarification for me.
oh, is that what I'm on?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
I'm
first agenda, first meeting is to open the finance.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't
I thought that was
apologize.
that.
All three of us actually, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so can I get a motion to close,
Open the finance.
well, we gotta close this one, right? Open finance.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to open the finance? Second? All in favor? I guess that's you, right? I guess so. Hand it to Heather.
First of all, has everybody been able to review the minutes from the last finance? Yes. I have a motion to accept the minutes. Second.
I'm not on this one.
I am, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Second, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
The balance sheet as of May 31st.
Getting a text from Chriselle that she can't hear us, and I don't know that we can move the microphone any closer, so we can all speak up.
Okay. So, not much has changed in terms of financials. We did receive the annual pilot payment, and we did receive the true up, which is not in these numbers because I just received that yesterday. As everybody knows, those amounts just get turned around and partitioned back out to the city, county, and school districts. Something new that we talked about in terms of last audit was a review of the outstanding bills to get approval by the finance committee. So you'll see on the last page, there is a list of outstanding bills, which I will run through briefly. The first one is the, excuse me, the first one is the balance of the contract for CEDC. We're not paying that all out at once. We pay it once per quarter upon invoicing, but the balance is there. RBT CPAs, that is for last year's audit. That's the outstanding balance for that. So, road and house control. There are several of these are from escrow. The first and second are from escrow. The third and the fourth, well, the third's for general services. The fourth, I have a question about, which we can ask in the full board meeting, in that I do not know if there was an agreement with CLC, whether or not they were going to cover the IDA's legal costs associated with us giving them the property or not. So we'll raise that up in the general meeting. Upon consultation with our counsel, I've just been paying it against our regular legal bills for now. It's easy enough to readjust that should there be an agreement for them to cover our costs for that property acquisition. And the last three I didn't have notated, but one of those is for general services and the other two are coming out of escrow accounts. And then the last one is a return of escrow balance to SE7. Does anybody have any questions in the finance committee about any of those bills? Oh. Okay, can I have
If we're voting to pay them, are we holding off on voting on the 567 until it's discussed? The one where you had a question?
Yeah, no, I would say no, because we have been paying bills against this since the start of the project.
Okay.
But they are all clearly identified in the general ledger as being for that. And
I did speak with Chriselle yesterday about this, and she can certainly weigh in, but since we're selling a piece of property, we have costs associated with that.
Right.
And it's not a deal as if we're financing someone else's property
Right.
where they're reimbursing. us.
Right.
So I think, Chris, was that your conclusion?
Yeah,
That's
I
what we
think that,
discussed.
I think that this was discussed early on, and we did not ask in the purchase contract for the counterparty to pay those expenses. They were asked to pay for the survey.
Probably should have charged them just enough to cover the legal fees, but it's too late for that, so, it's not,
Well, but-
it's not a huge amount.
And I think also, we are within the mission of the organization to do it, and we're getting rid of a liability.
That's true.
Because, we've held this property and this, we determined by the review by Crawford, it's not developable in and of itself. And we won't have to have insurance on it, we won't have to.
I was actually just asking
No,
a
no,
procedural question.
Yeah, but I do think that once, when you're selling your own piece of property, it's a different transaction.
I understand that.
Yeah, but it's for the benefit of the people on the screen.
By the way, I just got text that they can't hear us. So I don't know if we can turn the microphone off.
I don't know, Randall, how long's your arm?
Okay, just to summarize, we're reviewing the outstanding bills to be paid for the current month. And we're about to ask for a motion and a second to approve the payment of the bills.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does anyone else on the finance committee have anything that they would like to raise? Does anyone in the public have anything that they would like to raise? And can I call for a motion to end the finance committee?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And Heather. Can I get a motion to resume the normal HIDA meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we go back to accepting the minutes.
Yes.
Right. Can I get a motion? Is that the finance minutes too, right?
No.
No, we've already
Just a
accepted
regular, from March 6th. Can I get a motion to accept the March 6th?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we in admin?
No, now, I think I'm supposed to present the treasurer's report to the board as a whole for
Okay,
acceptance.
Gotcha. All right. So that's you, right? I mean, Heather, yeah.
So for the full members of the board, the finance committee has reviewed the financials to date. We discussed the fact that we've received our pilot payment from Hudson Terrace as well as the true up, which is based on the consumer price index. And we reviewed a list of bills, including ZD, the administration bill for the quarter, the balance of the amount that's due for the 2023 audit, several legal bills, some coming out of escrow and some for general services, as well as the return of outstanding escrow for the SEC 7 project. Anybody in the broader board have any questions or comments?
So now we need to accept the minutes.
I think so.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes? I mean, the report,
Motion. Financial report.
financial report.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Now my screen is read something different. So this is the admin report now?
Yeah.
Okay, because it read something totally different to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First item under the director's report is the Columbia Land Conservancy North Bay update. Chris Shell, our counsel, has been working with counsel for the Land Conservancy. Chris and I both have been working with the surveyor and the city in connection with the lot line adjustment for the portion of the property that the city has requested that we convey to them. so that they can continue to maintain a facility, public works facility that they have on the site. Chris, did you have anything to add on the update as to where we are and when it might close?
So the surveyor was submitting the application for lot line adjustment to the planning board. That will have to go through that process before we can be ready to close. So we'll be awaiting that process.
And we did confirm with the Land Conservancy that they understand that the survey costs are theirs. And as you know, we approved the resolution at the last meeting. Any questions on the Columbia Land Conservancy? If not, project update. We have had discussion with several of the other projects that we are aware of. One is the 601 Union Street project. It's in the old Elks Club. They are completing their planning and zoning board approvals and anticipate coming to us in July or August. David Kessler from 620 Union, which is a hotel project that was approved pre-COVID, is asked to come in and speak to the board in July about the moving forward with his project. We also have spoken with the developers of the Crescent project. It's on Warren Street. It's been known as the Ackerman Building, the Packard Building, and they felt that they would want to be coming to the IDA in August or September. So I did want to try to manage the length of the agenda by knowing who was coming and what month, and try to be sure that we don't have 7 projects on the same day. In addition, we have been in continual contact with the Providence Hall and Schuyler Court, both through Chris Shale and our special counsel, Melissa Bennett, because initially it was going to be a tax exempt financing. They are moving forward. They have, as I understand it, reached an agreement with the state on additional state support, but they're not able to close until HUD issues final regulations that have been proposed. And my understanding is those proposed regulations are acceptable to move the project forward, but the underwriters are insisting that those regulations actually be promulgated before they can close. Chris, did you have anything to add on?
Just that we're working through documents through, there are a number of lender entities involved here, including Freddie Mac. So we are going through those documents, primarily Melissa, to ensure that the IDA's typical requirements are met. At this point, we may need to come back to the board for a reapproval if there are any conditions that are different from what we had previously approved. We won't really know that until we have all the documents in front of us. So still awaiting, developer and lender documents.
Over $100,000. And the question was, which I believe is true, Barclay Damon is being paid directly by the developer, which is why we don't have an escrow.
Yes, and I think that is, they were originally serving as bond counsel for the tax exempt issue. I believe that they are expecting payment at closing.
As you know, it's a very
By the
important
developer,
project.
by the developer, yes.
It's a very important project to the city, and we're monitoring it closely. So, any questions on the projects we've discussed so far? Next up on our agenda is a presentation on the Depot District 75 North 7th Street project. And we have with us Dan Kent from Galvin Foundation and Dan Hubble from Whiteman, Osterman and Hamm.
Morning, everyone.
Please join us.
Thank you. Could you give Dan Bianco screen sharing privileges so that he can pull up our PowerPoint slides? What's that?
I got it here.
Oh, well, that's easier then. Great.
Actually,
Alrighty.
then that's Dan's got it, not mine.
Go to the first slide. Getting this set up just by. So by way of introduction, I'm Dan Kent, Vice President of Galvin Initiatives, joined here by Dan Hubble from Whiteman, Osterman, Hanna. We are a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 that has been dedicated to improving the quality of life in Columbia County. Over the last 12 years, we have rehabilitated 53 buildings in the city of Hudson and preserved or created over 250 units of housing. We've also created numerous community facility and community spaces, including the Hudson Area Library, Starting Place Daycare Center, and Bard Early College Hudson. Now, a big part of our mission is addressing the need for housing in the city of Hudson. We all know that housing affordability is one of the central challenges facing this region. Our biggest plan yet to address that need was the Depot District, which included two projects. 76 North 7th, which you may have seen is currently under construction, creating 63 units, thanks to a pilot agreement from this IDA. So we are deeply grateful for your support in making that project happen. The other component of the Depot District initiative, which also received a pilot agreement from the IDA, was 75 North 7th. That project, as initially envisioned, was a low-income housing tax credit financed development, serving primarily very low-income households. At this stage, we are looking at a development model that is a lot closer to what you see at 76 North 7th, which is a project that's 20% affordable, up to 80% of the area median income, and 80% of it closer to market rate. So the reason we are looking at making this switch is since we initially proposed 75 North 7th, a lot of things have changed. Interest rates and construction costs made the project financially unviable. So at this point, the financial model that we use for 75 North 7th no longer works. What has also changed over the last few years is that there have been a number of affordable housing developments proposed in the city of Hudson by the Hudson Housing Authority and as well as through a city RFP. So at this stage, our goal is to find a way to develop much needed housing, including affordable housing, but by using private financing so that we are not competing with the city and the housing authority for scarce public dollars. So at that, I will present the concept for 75 North 7th. If you go to the next slide. The project includes 75 new apartments, 5-story building. There will be 4 commercial spaces on the ground floor, all at about 1,000 square feet. 60 of the units will be market rate, with 5 of those set with a rent limit up to 130% of the area median income. And then 15 of the units, or 20% of the total, will be affordable up to 80% of the area median income. And later on, I'll show you the numbers of what that actually means in practice. Next slide. So there's a look at the rendering of the building. The 15 units at 80% of AMI will be affordable for households earning between $57,800 and $89,200 per year. The project, as currently outlined, delivers a fiscal benefit of $3.5 million to the city and the school district at a fiscal cost of $2.5 million, representing a 1.55 benefit to cost ratio for the city and 1.24 benefit to cost ratio for the school district. Next slide.
May we ask questions as you go through?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
On that slide where you're talking about the benefit, how is that calculated?
That's calculated by taking the total, so the benefit to the city taxpayer is calculated based on the total tax revenue generated by the project over a 25-year period, and it includes the IDA fee as well.
So that is making the assumption that you're getting a pilot.
Yes, this is assuming a pilot,
That
yes.
is my question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's,
Without a pilot, there is no project.
and it's the pilot as you propose, not the pilot that has been.
That's right, as currently,
Is it the one that's in your application?
yes.
I thought that was a 20-year pilot.
It's 20 years, but for the cost benefit analysis, the last time we came to the IDA for our projects, there was a 25-year period evaluating the fiscal benefit and cost of the project.
And the reality is that under the analysis of a project with no pilot and the analysis of the project with pilot, 21 through 25 is the same number, but we could run it as a 2020 comparison as well as the 2025. There's not going to be any, the net present value in the year 21 to 25 is the same in both analyses.
Correct. That's
Right.
right. But in the pilot document, the loss of tax revenue to the city is 3 million. When you compare estimated taxes without a pilot, it's 5.1 million. And then total with a pilot is 2.1. The delta is 3 million.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
but I think what you don't have in there is the other analysis that there's $12,000 a year now paid on that property
Right.
as a vacant lot.
Right.
And what would,
No, I understand.
Yeah.
but
The idea.
we do
Yeah,
that
so-
analysis
The
later.
idea is also factored in
Understood.
there, and various other taxes.
Yeah, and so that schedule in the, oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
That schedule in the application just shows the 20-year period.
Correct.
And as the members of the IDA and the developer know, this analysis as to what the actual benefit is subject to a third-party independent review that by a firm that the IDA selects, but the developer provides escrow for us to pay for that stuff.
So is this the third party's estimate, or
No,
this is a current
this is
estimate?
their-
that you
This is
did?
our own
This is
estimate,
our-
yes.
That's what we're trying to
Okay.
say.
You don't have to take our word for it.
Okay, so we'll go to Des Moines or somebody like that to,
Well, we used the group in New York the last time
Yeah.
and they did a much.
somebody like that, yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, good. Next slide, please. So just as an update, I mentioned earlier, 76 North 7th, there is our latest rendering of what this building will look like when it's completed. Again, it includes 63 units, 20% of which are affordable up to 80% of AMI, 5 1,000 square foot commercial spaces. And as I'm sure you've noticed as you walk by, we're making great progress. We're expecting construction will be completed in July 2025. And I just want to, again, express our appreciation to the IDA because this literally would not be in construction. This would not be built if it weren't for the pilot agreement that we'd entered into with the IDA. So thank you. Next slide. So 75 North 7th, as proposed, delivers a number of community benefits. And I'll be going through each of these one by one. Next slide, please. It creates and retains jobs. We are projecting 192 direct and indirect jobs during construction and 27 direct and indirect jobs after construction. And the project will have 1.5 FTE jobs in the maintenance of the property. The project represents a significant investment of private capital, $26.5 million of economic activity here in Hudson, including a projected $9.3 million in equity investments from the development team, as well as from other equity investors that we will be seeking. Next slide, please. The project, as I mentioned before, generates a positive fiscal impact. It strengthens existing industries, both the county construction industry, as well as by supporting retail and tourism in the city of Hudson by creating an exciting new commercial district. Next slide. And here is our timetable for the project. Our goal would be to enter into a pilot agreement with this IDA this summer so that we could proceed with construction starting in the fall with a goal to complete construction by summer of 2026. We have gotten some good feedback from 76 North 7th from equity investors. So we think this is a great opportunity to build on that momentum and go back to the investors who are putting their money into 76 North 7th and take that interest so that we can develop 75 North 7th. Next slide, please. Here is a before and after picture showing the lot in its current state and what it will look like after the building is completed. Next slide. Now, one of the greatest contributions of this project is it addresses the housing shortage in the city of Hudson, and the shortage that is really affecting communities statewide and is driving the rapid escalation of rents. Next slide. As stated in the Hudson Strategic Housing Action Plan adopted in 2018, the plan calls to build new rental housing to serve a wide range and mixed income levels, household sizes and populations, including senior, family, supportive, transitional, and market rate. This project delivers both market rate and rent restricted units. Next slide. So here's the breakdown of what we mean when we say affordable and market rate housing in the project. So the project includes 8 one-bedroom units with rents limited at approximately $1,400 a month, 5 two-bedroom units at $1,700 a month, and 2 three-bedroom units just under $2,000 per month. The market rate units includes 30 one-bedrooms, 24 two-bedrooms, and 6 three-bedroom units. Next slide. So here's an example. For the 15 affordable units, they are affordable for households earning between $57,800 a year and $89,200 per year. So you can imagine a household involving Stacy Washington and her partner Mark, who currently live in a one-bedroom apartment costing $1,800 per month, which is really on the lower end of what you might find for a market rate apartment in the city of Hudson. For this household, they both work in retail, earning the current minimum wage. When you add those two incomes together, that brings you to $62,400 per year. They would be eligible for a one-bedroom apartment in 75 North 7th. This would save them $4,488 every single year, which is a very big deal for a household in any place. Next slide. For the commercial space, again, there are 4 units totaling 4,000 square feet. They're on the street level. There is also, again, commercial spaces across the street in 76 North 7th. We also have the wonderful upper Depot Brewery, which is currently in operation in the restored Depot building, as well as Return Brewing across the street. So this is really the making of an exciting new commercial district in the city of Hudson that will allow for an expansion of small businesses north off of Warren Street into a new commercial area. Next slide. And finally, this project also just promotes accessibility and quality of life in accordance with the City of Hudson comprehensive plan by including street trees, new sidewalks, and better landscaping along the North 7th Street corridor. Next slide. Now to close, I'll just show you the site plan and elevations. This is the site plan as approved by the City of Hudson Planning Board. We are not making any changes to the site plan, so that approval is still in effect. Next slide. And then finally, here are the renderings once more. You've got the front rendering on 7th Street on the left, and then an image of the landscaped rear yard and the back of the building on the right. This building was designed to reflect architectural styles seen in the city of Hudson and to match the building across the street. And that is the conclusion of the presentation. We're happy to take any questions, and any questions we don't have information for, we will return in writing.
Just curious, you refer to it as market rate housing, but then you also refer to it as up to 130 AMI.
So for 76 North 7th, we agreed to have 80% of the units with a rent limit at 130% of AMI, which is pretty close to what market is in the city of Hudson. Might be a little higher than what market is in the city of Hudson. For 75 5 North 7th, we are proposing that 5 units will have a rent limit up to 130% of AMI. The reason is just that we got some feedback from equity investors that they felt less comfortable with the 130% of AMI rent limit on all of the units. So we wanted to see if the IDA would be comfortable with only 5 of those 60 units being capped at that rent limit.
But you also have some capped at 80%, correct?
That's correct. So 15 capped at 80%, 5 capped at 130%.
And then the balance, what is the number that are market rate?
So 55?
Yeah.
At just full market rate.
That's right.
And so when you take the two projects together, it's gonna be what, about 50-50, 50% market rate and the combined
Yeah, essentially.
Restricted.
Yeah, if you put them together, yeah. I mean, I think adding market rate units to the mix also alleviates pressures elsewhere, because you get some people who may make just above 130%, but even still at 130% AMI with the way rents are in Hudson, market rates, that's still pressing.
But you will be renting at market rate to people over 130.
Yeah.
Whatever that market rate.
Right, and for 76 North 7th, we'd be taking the same approach as 75 in that this would be a rent limit. We would be open to having a preference for people who are under a certain income threshold. But the last time we were in front of this IDA, when we were working on the regulatory agreement for 76 North 7th, we agreed to a preference structure where if we received applicants that fell below 130% of AMI, they would get preference for that unit. If we didn't have enough to fill the units with people at that income level, we would then start renting to people who are above that income level, just to give us some flexibility. We don't want units sitting empty if there's not sufficient demand under a certain income threshold.
You said the 192 jobs, are they prevailing wage?
No, they're not.
They're not prevailing.
they're not required to be unless.
I understand.
30%.
I just said because they're not getting credits, right?
Well, no, because they're not getting, the benefit is less than 30% of the total benefit. Which was the new law that was put in place last year, that if you are receiving federal, state, and local incentives.
Yeah.
Where it's greater than 30% of the total project cost, or is it construction cost? They were still debating that at one point, that you have to do prevailing wage.
Excuse me?
You would have to do prevailing wage rate, union labor.
So based on the pilot that we've proposed, we're already below, we are below 30% threshold.
And that's using the total development.
I had a question on your application.
Sure.
Just clarification, it's on the project cost of financing on page 7.
Okay.
So I just clarification here, because I don't see how this adds up. You break it out by different costs, biggest amount is in construction, 22 million. But at the end, you've got a total cost of 134 million. How did that come about?
Yes, so we sent a note when we submitted the application. There were a few fields in the PDF form for this that we just could not get to calculate properly. So that is one of the fields. That should be $26,597,170.
Which is what's reflected over on the next page.
Yeah. There was another field that was just not working despite our best efforts for the total salary field for the retained permanent FTEs in the job creation section. Let's see, that was. Yeah, what page is that in? At 9, page 9. The total for the salary column was giving us a.
Oh.
Yes.
I would like one of those jobs.
Oh, yeah, that's one heck of a
So,
superintendent position.
something I find strange is like the numbers of the FTEs you're listing here,
Mhm.
employment plan is like 1.5, and yet you said something like 27 after cost jobs. Where are those 25.5 coming from?
So the 1.5 is just strictly the people who will be on salary working in that building in maintenance for us. When we put together the initial economic impact analysis for this project, which we're using the numbers we used last time we came to the IDA, which means they're probably a bit conservative, given the way markets have changed. But that was based on an economic impact analysis from Camoin, which looks at the total economic ripple effect of a project like this. So that's really a kind of job creation projection based on, you know, having all of these new residents, spending money, working in the city, that creates jobs elsewhere beyond the project.
Yeah, and also, I thought, if I remember correctly, it also factored in that there's gonna be commercial units. The commercial units are gonna have employees.
And I think it also included that the residents of the building are going to go out into the city and buy things and pay sales tax. And some of that.
I would like to see a little bit more granularity about how you arrived at 35.5 additional jobs, given that really aren't that many.
We can set, we can the oil.
Having a situation where you're saying, well, you know, we bring these people in and then they have jobs elsewhere, et cetera, it's a broad community. That is not a job creation plan with Hudson. So I think, you know, the leap from 1.5, which is pretty slim maintenance crew, I think, for you know, the building of that size, but lifted buildings less than that with more maintenance stuff. So you've got 1.5 there, and yet you're saying we're going to create 27 jobs. Without seeing a little bit more detail, I find it hard.
We can provide the Camoin report that we did before that has that.
The other thing,
Yeah. And just to be clear, that's also, you know, they run that through some economic impact program that we don't have access to, but we will provide the report and the level of granularity that they
And when
provided
we
us at the
talked
time.
about getting a study done, I have some comments on this stuff where they want to add the 8% on the coffee that the construction worker got at the roach truck. I mean, come on, it gets a little bit.
So the other section on company ownership, I have some questions here. So this company is listed as an LLC for North 7th, right?
Mhm.
So the Galvan Foundation or Galvan conglomerate has many companies. When you're listing the three, it says list all stockholders, members of partners, with ownership share greater than 5%. So the three individuals listed here, that is greater than 5% in the LLC for this particular building, is that correct?
So what we're showing here, since Galvin Initiatives is not a for-profit company, we're a nonprofit, so we don't have owners. So what we're showing here is the board members of Galvin Initiatives Foundation, and that's why they're all shown as having 0% ownership.
I see.
The actual ownership of the eventual 75 North 7th LLC, that's going to be a function of the equity investors that we're able to attract. So at this point, you know, we don't have a pilot, so we don't have a project. So we have not secured any investors for this deal, but it will essentially be Galvin Initiatives Foundation, as well as various other equity investors will be a part of that ownership entity.
So this board of three people, do they all have equal voting rights on the
Yes.
board?
Yes,
So it's 33%.
yes, that's right. Yeah, we can fill that.
I think it would be helpful to actually complete everything on the application. And then the other thing, I'm surprised by Mr. Galloway's address as being on Union Street. I didn't realize he was still living on Union Street. I thought that he had moved out of Hudson.
Oh, no, that's his address.
Oh, okay. And we didn't get any, well, I guess you didn't provide any organizational chart because you don't have owners, is that correct?
Yep.
Could I just ask to follow up on Margaret's question? Dan, I think that what the board needs to understand is what role will the not-for-profit have in the ultimate organization that is going to own the facility? Will it be a controlling managing member, or will it potentially not be in this for-profit entity that will be the owner?
No, it will be the managing member, just as it is the managing member of 76 North 7th Street.
Yes.
And Dan, with the 15 units, what was the breakdown again? 5 single?
15 units.
15
It's
or
really, it's kind of
15
20%.
15 or up to 80%, 5 or up to 130.
But I think Dominic is asking about the bedroom mix. But it's proportional, it's 20% across the board, 8 1-bedrooms, 5 2-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms make up that.
And then how many ADA compliant apartments you gotta have?
So the entire building will be, it's an elevator building, it's handicap accessible, and all of the units will be adaptable for individuals with mobility, vision, and hearing impairments.
Okay, so you're not gonna have exclusive in terms of, like, remote cabinets,
Bathroom.
the bathroom modifications, you're not gonna have that unless someone moves in and then you're gonna do it?
We'll have a certain number that are already adapted for mobility, hearing, and vision impairments. I can share the numbers. It will be the same as what we proposed for 75 North 7th previously.
Okay, and then, so with those 15 or 20%, with that rent, it's still, is that still over the threshold for Section 8? So Section 8 is not going to be eligible?
We will have to check on what the current Section 8 limits are. I'll follow up on that question to determine whether or not these are within Section 8 rent eligibility. I know in some municipalities, the Section 8 authority will pay up to 80% of AMI for rents, but that's something we can confirm.
Yeah, please. And then in terms of the businesses, now last time you had some preference into the business to minority women owned and also people with disabilities. Is that still going to be part of this for the businesses, for the storefronts?
Yes.
It didn't say it in the application.
Oh, it should have. I know we mentioned it in the presentation, but let me make sure that we get that.
And then and it's going to have a backup generator, right? In terms of the power goes out.
Let me look at the plans. I don't think it will for the entire building, but I'll have to talk with our architects on that.
Okay. Well, just because we've had issues at Bliss Towers with power going out even for a weekend, and it was a nightmare. And the city had to incur housing subsidy, so in a building this big, especially if there's some people that are on, some medical things, CPAPs and things like that. I would hope there's some backup generator to provide, for the tenants.
Let me check with our architects.
There's one more question I've got. I think Margaret covered it. I can't remember, but I think you covered it. But so in terms of so you have for this one, what Margaret covered was 1.5 full-time, which would be maintenance on site maintenance.
Yep.
That's just to this site.
Yeah.
That's not sharing to the other site.
No, the other site was also 1.5, but together it totals 3.
Okay, and then is that the same for the part-time, the 27, other employment? Is that also similar to the first? So we're not sharing the numbers. Right?
No, the numbers we provided here, and when we submitted the economic impact analysis that Camoin had done when we came to the IDA previously, it breaks out those numbers for 75 North 7th and 76 North 7th. So those numbers, the 27 direct employment impact, that is just for this project.
And since you're gonna have 88 apartments and the capability, what's the closest parking spot for somebody to live in?
The closest parking spot, let me take a look at the site plan. We do have some dedicated parking spots across the street at 76 North 7th behind that building. So I would think that would be our closest option. We also have some parking spots at 602 Washington, which was a component of our approval.
Can you talk a little about parking in general for this?
Yes, so
Assigned and where of it?
Yeah, so the planning board's approval included a development of a parking lot at the north end of North 7th Street. There's 40 spaces in that lot shared between the two buildings. And then behind 76 North 7.
Just a moment, 40 spaces where?
At the end of North 7th Street, 602 Washington.
Right across from the
Firehouse. Yeah.
Don't we dump snow there too?
Sorry?
I said, don't we dump snow there too?
Oh, no, that's the lot next to ours.
Okay.
That's city owned still.
That's where the
Snow removal is
That's where the
very
garage is
important.
going.
So, I mean, I had some clarification on this, you keep referring to the planning board having approved, et cetera, but what the planning board approved was a different project. So this is a new project, it's different, setup, it's different, you know, does this have to go to the planning board again?
No, there's no change. This site plan that's been approved is.
So the site plan is the same.
Site plan is not
So
changed.
what, the only thing that's changing is the makeup of the tenants, is that pretty much what we're?
Exactly, yeah.
And the method of financing,
Right,
Well,
yes.
yes.
because we're gonna use,
We're gonna use
Government
low
subsidy.
income housing tax credits for this.
But yeah, none of that impacts the site plan approval.
Either Mike or you can you compare what the proposed pilot is for this project versus the previous one?
we've started that, I've retained Jessica Gabriel, as a consultant, on, calculating this, but it doesn't relate at all to what she does, at the state. And I also, wanted to recommend that, the board authorize CEC, to retain EJH Associates or Advisors in Brooklyn, who we used to do the economic analysis the last time. I think one of the issues we have with some of the other firms is they're using a software program where they put inputs in and come out with these numbers as to the economic trickle-down effect. But I think you really want to look at the true economic impact as it relates to the value of the benefits versus the cost of the incentives. And looking through our new policy as to how this housing project scores with respect to the new goals and objectives of the IDA that were put in place with the template that we've been using.
So something else I would really like to see that I have not seen in previous analysis. So you can look at, this is how much tax revenue you're getting from this unused lot right now, and this is what you would be getting, but I don't ever see, and this is what the cost to the city is going to be for services, police. There are costs associated with the school, yes, the school will get taxes, but there are costs associated with that, water, sewer, infrastructure. There are costs associated with bringing in this number of people into that building. And so the question is, what is the delta between what we would get in tax revenue versus what it's actually going to cost us to provide services to these residents? And I really would like to see that as part of the analysis, because that's never addressed.
We could ask for that. I know, I live in a town that put a moratorium on any new residential construction because it's $28,000 a student to educate. And unless you're building a $400,000 house and you have 2 kids in the house, they weren't getting enough tax to cover it. But you do have to be able to provide housing to people to